Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN on a Thursday. Pete Thompson, Josh Hennick filling in for Mike Gill as it's day number 4 for Eagles training camp. And not just day number 4, the day when the veterans all report. Everybody in camp today, although some news yesterday as a few notable faces will not be in the bird's nest right now. We are joined by CSN Quick Slants, Derrick Gunn, CSN pre and post for Eagles coverage. Basically, the man you want to talk to if you want to know anything about the Philadelphia Eagles. Gunner, how are you on a Thursday?
Hey, guys. How you doing today?
We're doing pretty well, fine, and thank you. And I'll tell you what, the news that came up yesterday about one guy released, or is he traded? One was a bit of a surprise, one not so much. Maybe you could talk about the two players that were on their way out yesterday.
Well, when you look at Marcus Smith's situation, basically it comes down to he hadn't produced in 3 years. I mean, 4 sacks in 3 years from a first-round draft pick just doesn't cut it. And for whatever reason, he never fit in Bill Davis's scheme. And obviously, with Jim Schwartz coming in, we all thought that a change of the guard might mean a change in his play, and it didn't. You know, you look at Marcus in his second year under Bill Davis, he played 39% of the snaps. Well, all of a sudden, it dropped down to 21% under Jim Schwartz last year. Now, when he was on the field, he did play. It appeared he played better, but he didn't get enough reps. And when they went out this spring and drafted another defensive end at Derek Barnett in the first round, they brought in Chris Long. You knew it was going to come down to a numbers game. And it didn't help Marcus's cause when he decided to skip the OTAs back in May. Alan Babre, basically, here's a guy 33 years old, been around the block a few times, served his purpose here, started 12 games for this team last year. But when you look across the NFL, for the most part, they're trying to always get younger on the offensive line. And you look at the projected starters right now for the Eagles, minus Isaac Seumalo, who Frank Reich told us on yesterday that he was going, as of right now, is your starting left guard. But when you look at Jason Peters, Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, and Lane Johnson combined, their average age is 29.5. So they were getting up there a little bit in years. You got to get an infusion of youth along the way. You got Big V, Seumalo. So I know the coaching staff wants to get some of those guys in. Alan Babre, jack of all trades, could play multiple positions for him. But they just felt because of the log jam they had at left guard and along the offensive line right now, with the influx of new young players coming in, that Alan Babre was the odd man out.
Since we're talking offensive line, do you think Wisniewski, when they re-signed him, was that surprising to you? Because every time that name gets brought up to the coaching staff or brought up by us here on the radio, it doesn't seem like people really value him very highly, and yet they obviously value him enough to extend his deal.
Yeah, they gave him a 3-year extension, and he serves the purpose of being versatile along the offensive line. He can play guard, he can play center. And just as important, he adds depth. That's the one thing that really hurt this team last year, was the lack of depth. Well, now they have some pretty good depth. They have pretty good players across from tackle to tackle that can play multiple positions. So it was a smart business move by the Eagles organization and Howie Roseman to keep Wisniewski here, to bring in a Chance Warmack, guys like that who have experience at this level and yet can move around if they need to in case somebody goes down.
Derrick Gunn with us, Comcast pre and post for Eagles coverage, and check him out each night on Quick Slants as well, as he does such a great job there with Reuben Frank, and they break down everything Eagles football. And we're talking about the offensive line a little bit. I guess Chance Warmack, too, is another name that pops out to me, Gunner, because that's a guy they picked up in the offseason, hoping to plug him in and a plug and play, and maybe his fortunes would be better. What have you seen out of Chance Warmack in the times that you've been able to see him?
Well, the guard basically is a road grader. It's hard to tell much of anything when you just have on helmets. Obviously the OTAs and the first few days of camp, you really won't be able to see much. But, here's a guy who's been a starter his whole career. He comes in here, he's a road grader. He moves people off the offensive line. And so I like that they added that type of player. And I know that it was announced that Seumalo is the starting left guard right now, but it's going to be a battle for that left guard position. And, we were discussing this on Quick Slants on Wednesday, and Reuben Frank was beating his chest because he said, hey, I told you guys Seumalo was going to get the starting job, whereas Barrett Brooks and I said, wait a minute, there's a long way between now and that first game in September. Whole lot of things can happen, so don't beat your chest yet. It's a great depth. I mean, he provides experience. He provides a mentorship to a young guy like Seumalo as well. I think somewhere along the line that this guy is going to start some games for the Philadelphia Eagles before it's all said and done.
Yeah, and he gets reunited with his old position coach as well. We're visiting with Derrick Gunn for a couple minutes here, talking Eagles football. And, boy, I think I saw this yesterday. I was off yesterday, Gunner. I was actually playing golf, but, you check your phone occasionally. I saw somebody.
Yeah, you're living a good life, are you?
Oh, I was having a good old time. It was a beautiful day to play, too, I must say. But, I saw that news about the Eagles player movement, and then I saw somebody else's take that I thought was a little interesting, too, which is finally the whole reason they got a guy like LeGarrette Blount. If we're talking offensive line, then they could block for a guy that can pound it on 2 or 3 yards or try to get them that first down and move the chains when they have short yardage. What do you think the addition of LeGarrette Blount brings this football team?
Well, obviously the big back, short yardage situations. I don't see him as a 18, 20, 22 carry a game type back. I think he might get 10, 12 touches a game. And they obviously want to get in Sproles. They obviously want to, we'll see where Pumphrey stands in the rotation and Smallwood and things like that. But LeGarrette Blount is definitely that guy who can tire out a defense. If the offensive line is doing its job up front, LeGarrette Blount is the guy, is a sledgehammer that can help wear a defense down in that fourth quarter if the running game is going. I don't know if he's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher in this offense, but I do know he's going to serve a vital role in this offense in terms of helping establish a running game week in and week out.
Before I move on to the wideouts, since we're in the running back position, procedurally, when do we expect this Ryan Matthews move to take place, if it takes place?
Well, as long as he's hurt, he can't do anything. So it depends on when the medical staff deems him clear, and who knows when that could occur. But I don't see Ryan Matthews coming back here, and I don't know if he's ever going to play football again. Now, a few people have told me that there's a good possibility he could play again down the road. I don't know if I'm Ryan Matthews, and I'm not Ryan Matthews, but if I was, and the doctor tells me we're talking about neck injury and possibly about re-injuring myself again, I have to sit back and make a sound business decision. Ryan Matthews has played some good football. He's made some good money at this level. Now it's about long-term health. And when you start talking about long-term health in the National Football League, it always starts with this CTE, and rightfully so, because of all of the studies that are being done and the more information that's being made out there. I don't think Ryan Matthews is coming back to this organization, and I know the competitor in him doesn't want to go out like this, but I just hope that whatever he decides to do makes a sound decision in terms of long-term health, more so than short-term health.
Yeah, I saw that article too, like everybody else. I saw our guy Robbie Kessner asked a question about Frank Reich yesterday about CTE. I mean, it's kind of the unspoken thing that the guys in the NFL don't really want to discuss too much, because who, after all, wants to discuss their career mortality, if you will, as opposed to actual mortality. We're visiting with Derrick Gunn from Comcast Pre and Post Eagles coverage and Quick Slants. Check out that show, Quick Slants, each night to get your Eagles fix. There's a reason it's where it is on the program schedule. It's because we need Eagles all the time, and we're talking wideouts too, Derrick. Boy, I'll tell you, you look at the wideouts last year and you look at the wideouts this year, and what a significant upgrade they made at that position. Have you been able to ascertain if they did enough with these guys, and who jumps out at you of the new arrivals?
Well, considering what it was last year, anything that they did this offseason was an improvement over what they had. You went out and got a big-time receiver like an Alshon Jeffrey. You got a guy that can stretch a field like a Torrey Smith. Jordan Matthews, you know what he's capable of doing. And then you got Zach Ertz, so I think this could be finally the breakout year for Zach Ertz. So I do think we've seen an upgrade in the wide receiving core. The interesting thing is I'm looking forward to seeing how soon Alshon and Carson Wentz get on the same page, because I do think Alshon is going to be Carson's go-to guy. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. You don't get enough game reps in the preseason. Sometimes the practice speed is not the same, obviously, as it is in a game situation. So it may take a couple of games for them to get on the same page in terms of game speed, but I do think it's going to click at some point sooner rather than later. I hopefully Torrey still has that Torrey speed that we saw down in Baltimore a few years ago before he got lost in that vast wasteland of the San Francisco 49ers. And I do think if it all comes together, the passing game is going to be a significant upgrade. The one thing we have to keep an eye on, obviously, is Jordan Matthews with his tendonitis. And it kind of perplexed us all the other day when Doug Peterson stepped to the podium and said, Jordan Matthews is fine, but he's rehabbing his knee. And we're going, wait a minute, how are you fine if you're rehabbing a knee? So, he had limited reps in the OTAs in the minicamp. And I know they're going to watch him closely during training camp. If I'm the Eagles organization, I don't need Jordan Matthews in the preseason. I need him from September to December as a slot receiver. Now, I know he's going to have to get a couple of reps if the knee is sound somewhere. But I'd say that second or third preseason game, I get Jordan Matthews in there for a couple of series, and then I shut him down until the regular season occurs. Because when you have tendonitis, especially at a young age like Jordan Matthews, that's something that's going to linger. No matter how much you rehab it and baby it and nurse it, it's going to linger throughout the course of a season. And I don't want to see him do anything that can't be repaired or fixed in training camp. Let's save Jordan Matthews for what's to come, because the first 7 games of this schedule are flat out brutal for the Eagles, and they're going to need all hands on deck when they hit the ground running in September.
Hey, Derrick, it's Josh. Switching over to the defensive side of the ball, we know that competition is a big deal for this coaching staff. For right now, they say that Patrick Robinson and Jalen Mills will be on the outside, Ron Brooks at the nickel. But how do you see the cornerback position battles going? Is there a possibility that the 3 that I just mentioned may or may not be where they were assigned at the beginning of camp?
Well, I agree with you that initially those are the 3 front runners for those spots. But as I keep looking at this kid, Rasul Douglas, he has the length that you're looking for in cornerbacks nowadays. The kid is physical. He gets a little too grabby at times, and when they bring the ref ends for practice, he's going to learn that there's certain things you cannot do, or you're going to get flagged for it. But I do think this kid, Rasul Douglas, is going to push Patrick Robinson for a starting spot. When? I don't know. I just hope the kid is a quick study, because they're obviously going to need him in a rotation. You hate to talk about injuries, but let's face it, there's not a team in the National Football League that doesn't endure some type of injury. And with the Eagles being as thin as they are at the cornerback spot, they're already vulnerable right now because of youth, and Patrick Robinson really has never lived up to that billing as a first-round pick. So you're going to need all hands on deck. You're going to have to get some other guys back up to speed sooner rather than later. But that's going to be an interesting battle to watch between Rasul Douglas and Patrick Robinson.
He's Derrick Gunn. He's the host of Quick Slants each night from 6 to 6:30 on Comcast Sportsnet. He's also the Eagles beat reporter for CSN. You can see him on pregame and postgame coverage, or find him on Twitter at @TheRealDGunnCSN. And he's a heck of a nice guy, too, because he comes on the Sports Bash with us, and I certainly appreciate the time. Thank you, D. Gunn. I know how busy you are, pal, and I look forward to seeing you in person sometime soon.